Two fleets, two superpowers, one ocean, and a question that military analysts, defense experts, and world leaders have been asking for decades. If the United States Navy and the Chinese Navy ever came face to face in open conflict, who would walk away victorious? This is not a hypothetical exercise. Tensions in the South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, and across the Indo-Pacific have never been higher. Both nations are spending hundreds of billions of dollars expanding and modernizing their naval forces. Both are developing weapons that did not exist 10 years ago, and both are watching each other with extreme caution. Today, we are going to break down this rivalry in complete detail. We will look at fleet size, technology, aircraft carriers, submarines, missiles, personnel, logistics, and real-world combat capability. By the end of this video, you will have a clear picture of where both navies stand in 2025 and what a real conflict between them might actually look like. Let us start from the beginning. The United States Navy has been the most powerful naval force on Earth for over 80 years. Since the end of World War II, no nation has come close to matching its global reach, its technological sophistication, or its ability to project power anywhere on the planet within days. The U.S. Navy operates in every ocean simultaneously. It maintains forward deployments in Europe, the Middle East, East Asia, and the Pacific. It has the infrastructure, the allies, the bases, and the experience that no other navy in the world can match. The People's Liberation Army Navy, known as the Plan, is a different story. For most of its history, China operated a coastal defense force. Small ships, limited range, no power projection capability beyond its immediate neighborhood. But something changed around the year 2000. China looked at its navy, looked at America's navy, and made a decision. They were going to build the most powerful fleet in history. What followed was the most aggressive naval expansion program the world has ever seen. China has been launching new warships at a rate that shocked Western defense analysts. Not one or two ships per year. Dozens, every single year. Destroyers, frigates, submarines, amphibious assault ships, and aircraft carriers coming out of Chinese shipyards at a pace that the United States simply cannot match in raw numbers. By 2025, the People's Liberation Army Navy has surpassed the United States Navy in total number of ships. That sentence would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. Today, it is reality. But numbers are only part of the story. Let us go deeper. When we talk about fleet size, the comparison is striking. China now operates well over 370 warships, making it the largest navy in the world by number of vessels. The United States Navy operates around 290 battle force ships. On paper, China leads by a significant margin. But here is where it gets complicated. The United States Navy is not just the ships you can count. It is the entire global infrastructure behind those ships. The U.S. maintains over 800 military installations around the world. It has naval bases in Japan, South Korea, Guam, Diego Garcia, Bahrain, Spain, Italy, and dozens of other locations. These bases allow American ships to operate, refuel, rearm, and repair anywhere on the planet. China has one overseas military base. Just one, located in Djibouti on the Horn of Africa. Everything else China has is either in Chinese territory or in disputed waters close to home. This is called force projection, and it is one of the most important factors in any real naval conflict. The United States can fight a war on the other side of the world and sustain that fight for months or years. China, outside of its own region, currently lacks the logistical network to do the same thing at scale. However, inside the first and second island chains, which are the strategic zones closest to China, the balance looks very different. In those waters, China has land-based missiles, air defense systems, radar networks, and submarine bases that create what military planners call an anti-access and area denial environment. In simple terms, China has built a zone around itself where operating a U.S. carrier strike group becomes extremely dangerous. That is the core tension of this rivalry. The United States can dominate the open ocean. China has made the waters near its coast a potential death trap for any approaching fleet. Now let us talk about the crown jewel of naval power: aircraft carriers. The United States operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. This is more than the rest of the world combined. These are not just big ships. They are mobile air bases, each carrying between 60 and 90 aircraft, including F-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft, E-2D Hawkeye early warning planes, and increasingly, the F-35C stealth fighter. A single American carrier strike group includes the carrier itself, 2 guided missile cruisers, 2 or 3 guided missile destroyers, an attack submarine, and a supply ship. It is a complete, self-contained combat force capable of projecting air power anywhere within hundreds of miles. The newest American carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is in a category of its own. It uses electromagnetic launch systems instead of steam catapults, advanced nuclear reactors, and a completely redesigned flight deck that increases sortie rates dramatically. It is the most powerful warship ever built by any nation in human history. China currently operates 3 aircraft carriers. The Liaoning was purchased from Ukraine as an unfinished Soviet hull and refurbished. It is primarily a training ship. The Shandong is China's first domestically built carrier, similar in design to the Liaoning, but with improvements. And then there is the Fujian, China's most advanced carrier, launched in 2022 and currently undergoing sea trials. The Fujian is significant because it is the first Chinese carrier equipped with electromagnetic launch systems, similar to the Gerald Ford. It can operate a full range of fixed-wing aircraft and represents a genuine leap forward in Chinese carrier capability. China is also reportedly building a 4th carrier, potentially nuclear-powered, which would place it in the same league as American carriers in terms of propulsion and endurance. But here is the critical difference. The United States has been operating carrier aviation for over 100 years. American pilots have thousands of hours of carrier landing experience. The tactics, the training pipelines, the doctrine, the institutional knowledge built up over a century of carrier operations cannot be replicated overnight. Chinese carrier aviation is less than 15 years old. That experience gap is real, and it matters enormously in actual combat. Still, China is closing that gap faster than many analysts expected. And 3 carriers today could become 6 or 7 within a decade if current shipbuilding rates continue. Submarines are where this rivalry gets truly terrifying and where a lot of the most important action would happen in any real conflict. The United States operates the most capable submarine fleet in the world. 53 attack submarines, all nuclear-powered Los Angeles-class, Virginia-class, and the newer Block 5 Virginia-class submarines. Nuclear power means these submarines can operate for months without surfacing. They are incredibly quiet, technologically advanced, and armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and advanced torpedoes. American submariners are the best trained in the world. The crown jewel of the American submarine force is the Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine. These are the nuclear deterrent boats, each carrying up to 24 Trident 2D5 ballistic missiles. These submarines exist to ensure that no first strike by any enemy could ever eliminate America's ability to retaliate with nuclear weapons. They are among the most carefully hidden objects on Earth. China operates around 60 submarines of various types. About 12 of these are nuclear-powered, including ballistic missile submarines and attack submarines. The rest are diesel-electric boats, which are quieter when running on battery power, but have limited range and endurance. China has made significant improvements in submarine technology over the past decade, but American submarines remain significantly quieter and more capable overall. One area where China has invested heavily is in submarine-launched ballistic missiles. China's JL-3 missile, launched from the Jin-class submarine, can reportedly reach the continental United States from Chinese home waters. This gives China a sea-based nuclear deterrent that complicates any American strategic calculation. In a conventional conflict, American submarines would likely operate aggressively, hunting Chinese surface ships and submarines, cutting off Chinese sea lanes, and launching tomahawk strikes against land targets. Chinese submarines would try to do the same to American carrier strike groups. The underwater dimension of any U.S.-China naval conflict would be intense, dangerous, and largely invisible to the outside world. Surface combatants form the backbone of both fleets, and this is another area where China has made extraordinary progress. The United States operates 92 cruisers and destroyers, all equipped with the Aegis combat system. Aegis is the most sophisticated naval air defense system ever built. It can simultaneously track hundreds of targets and engage multiple threats at once. American destroyers carry Tomahawk cruise missiles, standard missiles for air defense, and advanced anti-submarine weapons. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, of which the Navy operates over 70, is arguably the most capable surface combatant in the world. China has responded by building its own version of the Aegis destroyer. The Type 055 destroyer, which China calls a cruiser by its own classification, is a genuinely impressive warship. At 12,000 tons, it is larger than American destroyers and carries a 112-cell vertical launch system packed with a wide variety of missiles. The Type 055 is considered one of the most capable surface combatants in the world, and China has already commissioned 8 of them with more under construction. Supporting the Type 055S are dozens of Type 052D destroyers and Type 054A frigates, giving China a large and increasingly modern surface fleet. The numbers favor China in terms of total hulls. The quality gap that once existed has narrowed significantly. In terms of sensors, weapons, and combat systems, the two fleets are closer in capability today than at any point in history. Now let us talk about the weapon that has fundamentally changed the naval balance in Asia: anti-ship missiles. China has invested more heavily in anti-ship missile technology than any other nation on Earth. The DF-21D ballistic missile is specifically designed to destroy aircraft carriers. It has a range of over 1,500 kilometers and travels at hypersonic speeds in its terminal phase. Because it comes from above at enormous velocity, current naval defense systems struggle to intercept it reliably. This is why it earned the nickname the carrier killer. Then there is the DF-26, with even longer range, capable of reaching Guam from Chinese territory. And the YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missile, carried by Chinese submarines and surface ships, which has a long range and a sea-skimming terminal phase designed to defeat close-in weapons systems. Chinese warships, submarines, and land-based missile forces together create what is called a layered anti-access environment. An American carrier strike group approaching China would potentially face waves of missiles launched from submarines, surface ships, aircraft, and land-based launchers simultaneously. The mathematics of overwhelming missile defense is one of the most serious strategic challenges American naval planners face today. The United States is not standing still. The Navy is investing heavily in directed energy weapons, improved interceptor missiles, and electronic warfare systems designed to defeat Chinese anti-ship weapons. But as of 2025, closing the missile gap remains a serious priority. Let us shift to air power, because naval aviation plays a central role in any fleet engagement. American carrier air wings are built around the F-18 Super Hornet and increasingly the F-35C Lightning II stealth fighter. The F-35C is a fifth-generation aircraft with stealth capability, advanced sensors, and the ability to fuse information from multiple sources to give pilots a complete picture of the battle space. It is one of the most capable fighter aircraft in the world. Supporting the carrier air wing are land-based maritime patrol aircraft, like the P-8 Poseidon, which hunts submarines across vast stretches of ocean, and B-2 and B-52 bombers that can strike naval targets from long range. China has also developed impressive naval aviation capability. The J-15 carrier-based fighter has been upgraded significantly. China is also developing the J-35, a stealth carrier aircraft that will fly from the Fujian and future carriers. Land-based, China operates the H-6K bomber, armed with anti-ship cruise missiles, capable of threatening American ships at long range. In a conflict, both sides would be trying to establish air superiority over the combat zone while simultaneously attacking each other's ships. The side that can find, target, and strike the enemy fleet first will have an enormous advantage. This is why both navies invest so heavily in surveillance, reconnaissance, and over-the-horizon targeting systems. One factor that gets less attention but matters enormously is the human element: personnel, training, and experience. The United States Navy employs approximately 340,000 active-duty personnel. These sailors and officers come from a system with over 200 years of continuous naval tradition. American naval officers attend the Naval Academy, or ROTC programs, then spend decades in a rigorous professional development system. American sailors train constantly. U.S. Navy carrier strike groups regularly conduct exercises that involve simulated combat, electronic warfare, submarine hunting, and coordinated multi-domain operations. More importantly, the United States has combat experience. American ships and sailors have operated in actual conflict zones, conducted actual strikes, responded to actual crises. That experience is woven into doctrine, tactics, and institutional culture. China's People's Liberation Army Navy has approximately 250,000 personnel. It is a professional force that has improved dramatically in training and competence over the past 2 decades. However, the plan has not fought a significant naval battle since 1988, when a brief skirmish with Vietnam resulted in a Chinese victory in the Spratly Islands. That is the extent of Chinese naval combat experience in recent memory. This experience gap is considered by many analysts to be one of the most significant advantages the United States retains. War at sea is extraordinarily complex and chaotic. Decisions have to be made in seconds. Systems fail unexpectedly. Crew coordination under fire is something that cannot fully be replicated in training. The United States has this experience. China is still building it. Alliances are another dimension that completely changes the strategic picture. The United States does not fight alone. NATO allies include the United Kingdom, France, and other naval powers. In the Pacific, the U.S. has treaty alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines. Japan alone operates one of the most capable naval forces in Asia, with destroyer flotillas, advanced submarines, and maritime patrol aircraft. Australia is acquiring nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS agreement. South Korea operates a modern and well-equipped navy. In a conflict with China, American allies would almost certainly be involved. Their bases, their intelligence sharing, their combat forces, and their logistical support would multiply American combat power significantly. The combined naval forces of the United States and its Pacific allies would be enormous. China's strategic partnerships are more limited in the naval domain. Russia has conducted some joint naval exercises with China, but Russian and Chinese navies operate different doctrines and equipment, and any real cooperation would face significant challenges. North Korea's navy is negligible. China would essentially be fighting alone against a coalition. This is perhaps the most overlooked factor in U.S.-China naval comparisons. When people compare numbers of ships, they usually compare the U.S. Navy against the PLAN. In reality, the relevant comparison is the U.S. Navy plus its allies against China. That comparison looks very different. Let us talk about the geography of a potential conflict, because geography matters enormously. The most likely flashpoint for a U.S.-China naval conflict is Taiwan. China considers Taiwan a breakaway province that must eventually be reunified with the mainland. The United States has a long-standing policy of selling defensive weapons to Taiwan and opposing any forcible change to Taiwan's status. A Chinese attempt to invade Taiwan would almost certainly bring American military forces into direct confrontation with Chinese forces. The Taiwan Strait is only about 180 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. It is within range of almost every weapon China possesses. Chinese land-based fighters can reach Taiwan in minutes. Chinese ballistic missiles can reach Taiwan in seconds. The island of Taiwan itself sits very close to Chinese air and naval bases. For the United States to defend Taiwan, it would need to project power into waters within the Chinese anti-access bubble. American carrier strike groups would face attacks from Chinese missiles, submarines, and aircraft the moment they entered the region. The U.S. military has wargamed this scenario many times. The results are not always comfortable for the American side. Further from Taiwan in the open Pacific, the balance shifts back toward the United States. The further a conflict moves from Chinese shores, the harder it becomes for China to sustain combat operations. At distances beyond the second island chain, American advantages in logistics, submarine capability, and carrier aviation become more decisive. This means the geography of any conflict would be heavily contested from the start. Both sides would be trying to determine where the fighting happens, because location itself would partly determine the outcome. Cybersecurity and electronic warfare deserve attention because modern naval combat is fundamentally about information. The side that can see the battlefield more clearly, communicate more reliably, and deny those advantages to the enemy will have an enormous edge. Both the United States and China invest massively in electronic warfare, cyber operations, and space-based surveillance systems. China has demonstrated the ability to jam GPS signals, interfere with satellite communications, and conduct sophisticated cyber operations against military networks. American forces have seen their communications disrupted in exercises near Chinese electronic warfare systems. The electromagnetic spectrum has become a combat domain just as real as the ocean surface. The United States has significant advantages in space-based intelligence gathering. American military satellites can track Chinese ships, monitor communications, and provide real-time battlefield intelligence. China has responded by developing anti-satellite weapons capable of destroying American satellites in low Earth orbit. The opening moves of any U.S.-China conflict might actually happen in space, as both sides attempt to blind each other's surveillance networks. So where does all of this leave us? If these two fleets actually fought, what would happen? The honest answer is that nobody knows for certain. The variables are too many, the capabilities too closely matched in some areas, and the uncertainties too significant. Anyone who claims to know exactly who would win is oversimplifying a genuinely complex question. What we can say is this: in the open Pacific, far from Chinese shores, the United States Navy would likely hold decisive advantages. Better carrier aviation, more capable submarines, superior logistics, and the backing of Allied forces would be powerful factors. Close to China, in the waters of the first island chain, an American force would face serious risks. Chinese anti-ship missiles, submarines, land-based aircraft, and electronic warfare systems create a layered threat environment that would make operations costly. American ships would be destroyed. American sailors would die. Any conflict in those waters would not be a clean American victory. A full-scale naval war between the United States and China would be the most destructive conflict since World War II. Both sides know this. Both sides are aware that the costs of actual war would be catastrophic for both economies, both militaries, and potentially for the entire world. This is why deterrence matters so much. The goal of both navies in the end is not to fight each other. It is to convince the other side that fighting would be too costly. Every new carrier China launches, every new submarine the United States commissions, every missile test and fleet exercise is part of this ongoing calculation of deterrence. The arms race is real, the tensions are real, the risk is real. But so is the understanding on both sides that a war between two nuclear-armed superpowers with the world's two largest economies would have no true winner. The United States Navy remains the most powerful and most experienced naval force in history. Its global reach, its carrier aviation, its submarine force, its alliances, and its decades of operational experience give it advantages that cannot simply be counted in number of ships. China's Navy has undergone a transformation that is genuinely remarkable, from a coastal defense force to a global blue water navy in just 2 decades. The speed of Chinese naval expansion has no precedent in modern history. China has addressed weaknesses, developed asymmetric capabilities, and invested in technologies designed specifically to challenge American advantages. The honest assessment in 2025 is that neither side can guarantee a quick or clean victory over the other. A conflict would be prolonged, brutal, and uncertain in its outcome. The best outcome for both nations and for the world is that this question remains permanently hypothetical. Both navies will continue to grow. Both will continue to develop new weapons and new tactics. The competition will intensify, and the world will watch the 2 most powerful naval forces in history circle each other across the Pacific, each hoping the other blinks first. Thank you for watching Naval Force. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe for weekly deep dives into the world's most powerful naval forces, warships, and military operations. More is coming.